the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is Coast to Coast, and we got our full complement of guys on this Victory Monday, except you, Jay. And how's everybody doing?
Hey, I totally agree, man. Like we were saying in pre-show, as I was congratulating Pags, and Pags was being a total douchewad about it. I was trying to give all the congratulations and props there was. But yeah, man, my Cowboys are horrible. There's no doubt about it. But the one thing I just want to say about that Cowboys team, and I think we all kind of saw it, was the first 3 quarters, they came out flat and ugly. They actually decided to play football in the fourth quarter, but by then it was too late and they just couldn't do it. I mean, if you saw it, I mean, they went, I think it went, it was 24-6, and then it became 24-22, something like that. So, yeah, I mean, it was bad. Even Tom Brady was like, oh my God, they could actually do what the Patriots did. No, Tom, we cannot.
No, I mean, you guys are in postseason form right now. Like, you guys are killing it.
Yeah, man. Hey, listen, you're not lying. That is so true. So true.
I got you guys going 6-11 this season. I've been telling everybody about it. You guys are that's what's going to happen.
6-11.
I'm actually surprised you said 6-11. I'm wondering if I could beat the damn New York Giants next week. What are we talking about?
I mean,
I hope you're right. I do, but shit. I mean,
like in a week that the Giants and the Panthers won, where are y'all at?
Hey, I'm in purgatory and hell. The only thing I'm praying for is I know Quentin Ewers is coming out of the draft this year, and I would be okay to just say, fuck it, take it, go all the way, and let's just draft the Quentin Ewers. I'm not saying that guy's the best quarterback in the world, but he's certainly, I think, it'll be better than what we got.
Wouldn't you be worried about the fact that he's injured every year?
Hell, I got that regardless. I mean, maybe not at Prescott's level, but Dallas has a lot of injuries. I mean, no, am I worried about it? I don't know. You know, in all honesty, I don't think even if we drafted Quentin Ewers, we're still under the same regime. So I don't know if anything truly would change, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think so, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's big shoes to fill. I mean,
I'm more optimistic that Ewers can stay healthy than I am that Dallas Cowboys could actually hire a legitimate GM and coach.
No, I mean, that's fair. I have more faith that Tua hasn't suffered brain damage than that happening.
And I really hope that, and in all seriousness, I hope that is true. I really do pray for that young man. That's no
doubt.
But yeah, you're right, though. I mean, in all honesty.
Yeah, I mean, until Jerry gives up the reins, I don't know that any of that happens.
And I don't even know if Jerry giving up the reins would make it happen, because I'm still not 100% sure I know about what Stephen Jones is going to do or who he really even is about. You know, I don't know if he's going to follow the same lineage footsteps or if he's actually going to, maybe do a Robert Kraft and go get a legitimate coach and GM and see what we can do. I don't know. I'm hoping. My hope is that Stephen will go independent from his dad. Right? We'll see.
I am hoping he's Jerry Jr. Just for
I
the
know you are.
ticket.
Everybody is, man. Shit. I'd be surprised if you weren't.
Just for the dumpster fire of it all.
I'm already tired of speaking about Dallas.
Yep. Well, that'll happen. We can actually chat about your team looking terrible most of the game, really. Not the
defense.
The defense looked solid. Offense made the Saints defense look legit.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
It was a tough game. Bad calls.
Yes.
Play calling. Like the bad play calling. Like, get the 0 off the friggin' board. Stop trying to go like all cutesy shit in 4th and 4.
Yeah, why are you
guys? Wait, hold on. Are you saying you don't like the beautiful gift of Kellen Moore?
Welcome to life with Kellen Moore.
I mean,
damn, we saw that coming.
It was crazy that they were going for every single 4th down. It's like you didn't want to use a punter. You're just like, you know what? Our punter sucks. And we hate points. So unless it's a touchdown, no go.
There were a few things that made me excited about it. First off, the Saints defense could not get off the field on 3rd down.
Yep.
We had to have been I don't know what the numbers were, but we had to have been like 10 for 16 on 3rd down. Like we very rarely made it to 4th down at all. and the turnovers killed us, but the turnovers, 2 turnovers and a blocked punt, all worked out to just be a field goal.
Yeah, you guys were 6 of 13 on third down.
6 of 13. That's it.
That's it. And actually, they were 6 of 14 on third down.
Yeah, because even from a fantasy perspective, I went up against Jalen Hurts, and he struggled to even get to the 10-point range.
Other way around. You guys were 6 of 14. They were 6 of 13.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
And you guys were one.
I thought we were much
You guys
better.
were 1 for 3 on fourth down.
Yeah, well, yeah. 2 of those should have been field goals, but
no question.
That's not how we do things.
Yeah, it was funny because of how much you dominated all of the yardage, but because you guys didn't want to kick field goals, I mean, it really looked like you guys were going to lose that game.
I thought so too. But we won.
You did.
That's something Dallas can't say.
Well, don't get used to it because you're not exactly playing like the number 1 team in the league. So just because you're getting it,
you are playing like the number 1 team in the league. Right now, we're playing like the number 1 team in the NFC East, though, right?
You're still going to shit
number 1 team in the NFC East. The NFC East.
I'm just
right
saying,
now
at the end of the day, you're not going to have a trophy, and I hope you enjoy that.
The Cowboys is a bomb.
Seriously, man.
Man. And then there's the Vikings. And then there's the Vikings. This is probably the biggest surprise so far.
Man,
they looked really good yesterday. Yeah. They physically dominated Houston on both sides of the ball.
Absolutely.
Second time in CJ Stroud's career that he's thrown more than 1 interception in a game. He was sacked 7 times, which is the most he's ever been sacked in a game. Sam Darnold had 4 touchdown passes and now leads the NFL with 8 touchdown passes. And outside of that, it's great to hear that Sam Darnold's having an MRI and an hour on his right knee.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Perfect.
I'll tell you what, though, for Houston's side of it, Tunstall, that offensive line, really had a couple of offside penalties, and that's coming from a veteran. I really expected, a little bit more out of him on that end of the stick.
It's the Brian Flores defense, and every offense that's faced them this year has said the same thing is when they get ready to snap the ball, there's so much movement between the linebackers and the defensive line that the offensive line just gets really jittery. And they're more prone for false starts just because they don't know why people are moving so much before the ball is snapped.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I really thought Houston's offense was really missing Mixon. I really thought Mixon.
I'll be back in a minute.
Yeah. All right.
I mean,
I really thought not having Mixon, really kind of hurt that run game, which really kind of in turn hurt the passing game. But
it did. But with Minnesota too, like they still don't have TJ Hawkinson.
Oh, for sure.
They still don't have Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison's only played 1 half this year. He left at halftime of the Giants game, and he hasn't played the last 2 weeks. And they're still getting the production that they've gotten. And realistically, their offense really wasn't that great yesterday. Darnold,
and surprisingly enough, Jefferson actually dropped a couple of really key balls, and he knew it. And of course, it could have been that finger issue that he was having. I get that. But the one that I was super impressed with, really impressed with, which I thought was huge, was Naylor. I thought Naylor just played a hell of a game.
Yeah, he's really stepped up with Jordan Addison being out, and he was a 5th-round draft pick a couple years ago that was on the practice squad and got called up in week 16 because of injuries. In the first game that he played, he had 5 catches for $125 and a touchdown. And then last year he missed pretty much the whole season because he was dealing with a hamstring injury and an ankle injury, and he only played like 2 or 3 games last year. But this year they said he had the best camp out of any wide receiver, not counting Jefferson. And he basically went from being a number 5, number 6 wide receiver to earning that number 3 spot. And you could make a case that even when Jordan Addison comes back, Naylor could be that number 2 option right now because Naylor's come up with big play after big play the first 3 weeks of the season. He's given Sam Darnold that secondary target that he's needed with Jordan Addison being out. But realistically, the Vikings are going to go as far as this defense takes them because their defense right now is playing at a freaking elite level. Their free agent pickup Grenard had 3 sacks yesterday, which looks like they won that Danielle Hunter trade because Danielle Hunter only had a half a sack yesterday and Grenard had 3. Van Ginkel had another sack yesterday, almost another interception. Brian Cashman was all over the place. I mean, who would have thought that we'd be talking about the Vikings defense over their offense as opposed to why they're off to a 3-0 start right now?
Oh, for sure. And let me ask you this, from a fantasy league perspective, for those that play fantasy league, maybe looking for a flex or possibly even a wide receiver too. Do you expect Naylor to continue this as the season goes along, or do you think he's going to eventually have that drop off?
He's going to have a drop off, but it's not going to be his fault because once TJ Hawkinson comes back into that offense, Hawkinson's going to be the number 2 option.
Right.
So you're going to have Jefferson, you're going to have Hawkinson, because even Jordan Addison, when Jefferson was hurt last year, was getting 14, 15 points a week in fantasy. But the moment that Jefferson came back, Addison's production went down to about 9 or 10 because you had Jefferson and Hawkinson that were getting all the points.
Oh,
and that's
sure.
That's going to be a similar thing this year where Naylor might have good games. He might be giving you 50, 60 yards receiving, but the touchdown percentage is going to go down just because Hawkinson and Addison are big red zone targets.
Well, one last question about this Minnesota team. So, obviously Grenard, you mentioned him on the defensive side. Obviously, he was a former Texan. Same thing for Hunter. Hunter was a former Viking. I mean, it's almost like the Texans and the Vikings got together and said, hey, let's switch defensive ends and see who does better. And I thought that was really kind of bad on Houston, Texas part because Grenard is actually younger. And he actually outperformed Hunter. I think Grenard had 3 sacks. I don't think Hunter sniffed the ball once. So
yeah, he had a half.
Do you think that's a bad thing for Houston, the fact they let go of Grenard, who's a younger version?
I mean, yes and no. I'm not going to say Grenard wanted a change of scenery, but he was just looking to get his first big payday. And obviously with Hunter, I think more so wanted out of Minnesota just because he's been there 8 years and he knew Minnesota wasn't going to pay him what he wanted. So that once Hunter left and Hunter signed with Houston, it was basically like, well, we'll just take Grenard for Hunter because he's the same player except a couple of years younger. And right now he's basically showing that he's a couple of years younger than Hunter. He's giving Minnesota basically the same production that Hunter had.
Yeah, that's why I felt like the Texans really got the short end of that stick because – one thing you can't get back is youth. And, especially as this team is growing and trying to do something in year 2 of, I've come off the playoff or year 1 off the playoff run last year. I felt like, they should want to keep their youth and not so much of that, anybody's got more than 8 or 9 years at that position.
But, I mean, who would have thought 3 weeks into the season that Sam Darnold would be leading the NFL in touchdown passes?
Certainly not me. Honestly, I'll be honest. I didn't see that.
This is what the Jets were hoping for when they drafted him number 3 overall. Like, this was the potential that he had when he was a top 5 pick. It's amazing what happens when you give the guy weapons to work with. He's a top 5 quarter. He's a top 5 draft pick for a reason, and he finally has the weapons to do something with it.
No, it's pretty crazy. It was funny because going into this weekend, it was just the weirdest scenario because you had Derek Carr leading in yardage, you had Darnold leading in QBR, you had Baker right behind him. You're just like, what kind of weird ass season is this?
This is why they always say coaching makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, coaching matters in the NFL.
And obviously, Kevin O'Connell is a hell of a coach if this is what he's been getting out of Darnold for 3 weeks.
Yeah, I wish somebody could tell Jerry that coaching matters. Shit.
Oh, no, it matters to him. He needs a guy that doesn't, stand up to him. That's what matters.
There's actually a guy who works for ESPN. I think his last name is Green. He works for ESPN Radio out of Asheville, and he was saying that he expected Darnold to do great things once he got to a legitimate team. And now he's one of my friends, and he's all over Facebook now saying, "I told you guys, just give Darnold a good team to throw to." And sure enough, Darnold really is living up to that.
No, I figured
he was for the first 3 games anyway.
No, I figured this was going to be his best year because it's his best supporting cast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's missing half of his supporting cast right now with Hawkinson and Addison, so he doesn't even have the full weapons at his disposal. Even
with those holes, though, they were better than that Jets or Panthers.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Like both those teams were hot trash.
Yeah.
So, you saw him play decent for the Niners, the couple of starts that he got. But I mean, coming in here, I was like, this is his best shot.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, that's what I would say. I'm like, the guy's got an O-line, he's got a tight end, he's got wide receivers, he's got a running back. O'Connell's a good coach. I mean, literally, if he can't do it here, what do you say? This that guy wear a hat. Oh Lord, I'm not even. But no, seriously though, I mean,
you had to wait a few weeks to find out if it was a hat or
a
bag.
What did I say last week? I said I wasn't going to get too excited about Minnesota until I saw how they played against Houston.
Yeah,
and
he was
true, man. I mean, if Darnold couldn't make it work in this team with this team, then you'd had to know he wasn't going to be able to make it work anywhere. I mean, this really was the best shot. He had everything he could ask for.
Oh, no doubt. And Frankie, yeah, he had to wait till now to decide if he was going to wear the Vikings hat or a bag.
I'd never wear the bag, but I just wasn't going to get too high on this team until I saw them play basically what Frankie said, an actual good team. Because the Giants game, I wasn't going to take too much stock away from that. San Francisco, yes, they were missing McCaffrey, but San Francisco hasn't won at Minnesota since 1995. So I wasn't going to take too much stock out of that game either, just because it's always been a tough place for San Francisco to play. The Houston game and then the Green Bay game next week, and then the Jets game the week after that. Like, this 3-game stretch was going to be kind of where I gauge how Minnesota is going to do, because now you have Green Bay on the road next week. Jordan Love's expected to be back. And then you go across the pond to play the Jets in London. So, like, these next 2 games, if you're 3-2, your season is still kind of questionable. If you're 4-1 and 5-0, you need to start be taken serious, because you're actually a better team than what people thought you would be.
I do not take this Jets team at all seriously.
The thing is,
this Jets team. Now the Packers, that is a legit test.
I take the Jets team serious because of 2 reasons. They have a defense that's good enough to win championships. Like, defense wins championships, and the Jets have a championship caliber defense.
No question.
It's Aaron Rodgers.
It's not the defense; it's the offensive side. Well, I mean, that's Aaron Rodgers, but
that's the thing, though. Aaron Rodgers torches the Vikings. He's always torched the Vikings, no matter what kind of defense.
Yeah,
that's kind of why I said the next 2 games are going to be where I see where Minnesota sits. Because if they go 1-1, I'll be happy sitting at 4-1. At 4-1, you're pretty much going to be right in the playoff picture the rest of the way. Because if you play 500 football after that point, you're going to go 10-7, and 10-7 typically gets you one of those wild cards. If you're 3-2, you got a little bit of work to do, and they still have 2 or 3 tough games before they kind of get into like a lighter part of their schedule.
I'm completely sold on Breece Hall. I love Breece Hall. I love what he does for that team at the running game. I'm not really sold on their wide receivers because, truthfully, I mean, it's just the old guys from Green Bay plus Wilson. The offensive line for me is suspect in New York, and that's why I just feel like you guys, in my opinion, I understand that he does torch you guys, but does with another team. I don't feel like this Jets team is going to be that. I don't feel like they're that good. I don't.
So they have the potential to be that good, is the thing. Because he does have weapons to throw to. They run the ball well. As long as he can, be decent. Like, he doesn't have to be MVP. He
doesn't have to score 30 points a game like he did in Green Bay anymore. He can score 22, 23 points a game, and that defense is barely going to give up 20. He doesn't have to be anywhere close to what he was at Green Bay, and that team is good enough to win 11, 12 games.
Yeah.
We will revisit that one for sure.
Before we get into your Seahawks, though, Bo, do you think Bryce Young is done in Carolina after that performance by Dalton?
I mean, man,
literally the same exact team, and he comes out there and frickin' looks like he's been running that offense for years.
I mean, talk about dunking on the kid. Like, that was
well, what if we all said this last week? We all said that Dalton was good enough to come into that team and win a couple games.
No question.
He looked like he's been running that offense for 6-7 years. He came in there and probably played the best game that he's had in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, no question.
I think Bryce Young is done.
Well, at least he was well rested.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he played, a few games last year too.
Yeah, he had the first quarterback this year to have over 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns in a game. I mean, I think Bryce Young is done just because this was literally the same exact team that Bryce Young has had.
I mean, there have been inquiries though in Bryce Young to try to get him from Carolina. And Carolina, of course, has turned it down, saying they're not going to do it. But yeah.
Yeah, well, that's because nobody's offering anything real, right? Like, you'd be offering like a 3rd rounder for him that they just spent a ton of capital to go get. So I get why they're not interested in doing anything with him yet. But yeah, the odds of him being done there is pretty high unless there's something crazy happens.
Yeah, I think Dalton really did put the nail in Bryce's coffin there in Carolina. I mean, but he isn't a veteran. I do try to remember that he's a veteran. He does have experience and things like that Bryce doesn't really have. And he is taller, and Bryce can't really do anything about the height. But I don't think I agree with you guys. I don't think that he's
got lifts in his cleats. Is that what you're?
Well, no, because Bryce Young's they say Bryce Young is 5'11", but I think he's more so 5'10". He's tiny. And at least
I was thinking more of the 5'10" level, but
like Dalton's at least 6'2", 6'2.5". But the thing that you noticed with Dalton yesterday that you really haven't seen at all from Bryce Young since he's been in the NFL, Dalton had a lot of zip on his balls yesterday. Like, he was firing those things in there. When you watch Bryce Young throw, he gets nothing on his passes.
Yeah. And I agree with this, Frankie. He definitely needed to be holding a clipboard. He wasn't ready to rock. The Panthers just happened to be a team that needed every position, and so he was going to get that start no matter how it was going down. But he was well above his skis when, as far as that's concerned. But and then Glenn pops in. I got nothing for that. Cowboys just look like crap.
Yeah. Glenn, I totally get your pain, brother, because that's the same pain I was going through yesterday. Like I was telling Bo and them, a typical Cowboys fan would rip the TV off the wall and throw it in the trash, and I got close to doing that, but I'm not the typical Cowboys fan. I'm not going to destroy my own crap, no matter who they are. But I tell you, it was painful. It's painful.
That's what those doorbuster TVs are all about. They have Cowboy fans in mind.
You know what? Hey, you're not lying. No, in all honesty, I can totally get that.
But yeah, I mean, over to our game, it was. You're supposed to win this game, right? You're against Skylar Thompson. I really thought they were going to try and get Huntley to start that game, but
I don't even think he was active.
No, he wasn't.
Did the Seahawks lose?
No, the Seahawks won 17-3.
We won convincingly.
Or 24-3,
yeah.
That was my suicide pick.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, they killed it. It was 24-3.
And they gave Miami their third string quarterback now too, because Skylar Thompson got destroyed.
He got lit up all game.
Yeah.
Like, you felt bad.
But didn't we already know that? I mean, that was the premise that we were talking about. They really should have had Tyler in there because he'd given them better opportunities. Skylar Thompson. Because if that would have happened to Huntley yesterday, they would have been screwing themselves for the next 3 weeks.
Ultimately it was good that it went the route that it did because the offensive line, was letting guys through, and Skylar Thompson was just getting murdered back there. But then Tim Boyle ended up having to take over because Thompson gets hurt. And so you're down to the third string guy. Like, they just really didn't have a shot in this game. But there's still concerns as a Hawks fan, right? Like, obviously the score looked good, but there were some very real issues, like them going 3 of 11 on third down.
Mm-hmm.
Miami doesn't exactly play an inspired brand of defense, right? So if you can't convert third downs, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And they're only converting 33% of their third downs for the season. So that's something that, wasn't just a this game thing. So, I want to see them grow in that way a little bit, but they did show some signs of being able to stop the run a little better than what happened last week, where the Patriots just ran all over them. So, I mean, there was some good takeaways out of this. If you're a Dolphins fan, like, you got to be just about mailing this thing in.
Well, I mean, if you're a Dolphins fan, well, not really a Dolphins fan, but as a Dolphins owner and GM, how long can you stick with Mike McDaniel? Just because, yes, this team was built around the offense, and obviously to have the best offense possible, you need Tua healthy, you need Mostert healthy. Mostert hasn't been healthy this year. You need Hill, you need Waddle, you need all those guys. But if you know that Tua is not going to be counted on long term, at some point you kind of need to reassess your offense and kind of redo your offense to fit your team's strengths. And it doesn't seem like McDaniel's willing to do that right now. He's trying to run that same offense with Skylar Thompson. It's not going to work.
Well, I think you had to try it. I mean, because you don't know if he can't run it until you get out there. So, but his job is not in jeopardy at all.
No.
Like, you have your starting quarterback go down. Nobody's going to be like, well, what do you mean you lost games? Of course you lost games. The game is built around that guy. So, yeah, his job is fine. What they do moving forward probably leans more on the GM than him.
I was about to say, it's got to be that GM, because they're going to be like, hey, look, You gave a Skylar freaking Thompson 10 pull. I mean, come on. We got to have something behind Tua.
Exactly.
Like you said earlier about yours, the same thing is made about Tua. You know, his health is a severe question, so you got to have that guy behind him that can carry your team the rest of it, where you're not having to say, okay, once Tua goes down, well, so do we, the whole damn organization. So, yeah, I mean, you're definitely looking at the GM. You know, I'm not looking at McDaniel because he can't control that. He can only control what the GM gives him in the draft and things of that nature. Now, he can put his input in there, but the GM has the final say. So you have to look at him.
No, I mean, it's there's no way he's in jeopardy. He's done great things with that team so far. So, I don't foresee that being an issue. What they do from here is the biggest question. Really what comes out of Tua's camp is probably the biggest question as far as what they're going to do next. Because if he is medically deemed that he can't continue, then obviously they know where they have to go, right? Like they got to go find somebody. If he's available to come back and he comes back, then you got to
give him all that money. They gave him all that money.
No, exactly. And so that's where it really comes down, right? Is you're just like, okay, we don't have tons of cap space because you've been paying people, and this guy is injury prone. So then.
I think that they're going to push for that. Actually, they're going to push for the medical retirement so that the insurance kicks in. They're going to hawk Tua. They're going to hawk Tua and then go get a new quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, and they probably that's probably the best case scenario for them. I'm betting it doesn't go down that way. I bet they let him come back, and then it becomes an issue. Right?
He's going to be the one that sets the standard for suing the NFL.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, probably.
I could absolutely see that.
What's happening, Melvin? Yeah, it's no, like that whole situation is going to be just interesting to watch over the next few weeks, right? Because he's on IR for 3 more weeks.
Right.
And obviously this Miami team has shown us that they are without Tua, they're not good, right? Like they just.
So, and here's my other question: because they're going to put that big Q-tip on his head, are they going to color that in colors? Like, is it going to be the Dolphins' color?
Basically, make the helmet logo, everything all over it, where it looks like he's wearing a big helmet.
They have a cover for the Guardian cap that looks like the helmet.
He should be wearing that. If anybody should be wearing it, it should be him. It should be him.
Oh, he will be.
So he's going to look like. What? Like in Spaceballs. He's going to look like
Spaceballs.
So remember those wall stickers, the fat heads, right? Where the head was extra big. That's exactly what he's going to look like. Yeah. It's
look like one of those Zep toys or whatever it is. Yeah,
it'll be. You know what? It'll actually be. It'll be the real life version of Tecmo Bowl, where it's like a tiny body and a huge head.
It's almost like a bobblehead.
Yeah, exactly.
But I wonder, how long it would take for the NFL to actually say, okay, everybody needs to wear this style of cap or whatever to actually do prevent, especially if there's a lawsuit over it.
So they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
No,
right. I mean, because they have fines about your uniform anyway, so they don't love the fact that this is here. There's just a safety element to it that kind of forced their hand, but they don't want it because if you wear the wrong colored cleats, they charge you $5,000.
Oh, I get all that for sure.
Like they're not. They have a uniform that they want to see. This one just kind of, because there's a safety element, is forcing their hand to let you do it. But they're not. I don't think they're going to have any policy because now, whether you wear it or you don't, it's your personal decision. Which means if you get hurt without it, you can't sue them. It's on you. You should have been wearing it. So
totally. I guess what I was asking, Bo, was if there are let's say if Tua does come out and put a lawsuit on the NFL for things like that, could enough lawsuits then force them basically, regardless if they want to or not, to say, yeah, you're wearing Guardian caps, we can't afford all these lawsuits.
Yeah, the odds of them being able to do a full-on class action suit would be pretty small because again, you have the ability to wear it. So, you can, similar to like wearing a cup. You don't have to, but if you've ever caught a helmet to the nut, you're all of a sudden you're like, these aren't as uncomfortable as I thought. So, I mean, at the end of the day, that's probably, it probably won't end up in lawsuits because the players can choose to wear it if they want to.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It will be interesting to see, what happens with Tua though, because that'll change that franchise.
So, was anybody watching? I know that a lot of the games were happening at the same time. Was anybody watching the Eagles game?
Yeah, I was.
The Devonta Smith hit. Was that a dirty hit?
No. They showed it this morning. They showed it this morning in slow time too. The guy that hit Devonta Smith was like a 315-pound defensive lineman that just came back to try to knock the ball loose, and all he did was just take the shoulder pad pretty much directly to his side. So it was a clean hit. It was a hard hit, obviously, but it wasn't it wasn't towards the head. It wasn't anywhere over the shoulders. It was just getting sandwiched.
How about the spit?
What?
So it was shown, and one of the videos that I saw today was that one of the defensemen spit on us.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I didn't see that one, yeah.
Yeah, but the hit looked clean.
Yeah, what made the hit worse was the defensive back who had Smith around the waist kind of spun him backwards, and as he spun backwards is when he got sandwiched by that guy. That's kind of what made it worse because you had basically like two objects hitting each other. Otherwise, the hit probably wouldn't have been as bad as it was.
So that was the hip tackle.
No, it wasn't a hip tackle. Like, he didn't even drop him. Like, he spun him backwards trying to tackle him, and as he spun him backwards, the other guy got him basically from the side and sandwiched him between the 300-pounder and then the defensive back that was trying to tackle him.
Yeah, well, it looks like there was three guys that converged on the hit.
Yeah, I thought it was helmet to helmet at first too until they showed it this morning. They slowed it down.
His helmet fell off, and then that third guy seemed like the third guy piled on a little bit. Like the guy was there, he was down, and then it was like an extra pile on thing. But then the spit is really what I'm wondering about. And I don't know if the guy like just happened to spit and it was close to Devonta Smith, or you know what I mean. I don't know if it was a deliberate spit on.
Yeah, that I didn't see. I was probably getting food.
So if you were watching the whole game, they showed me pretty early, I assume. I had the kid next to me who was all excited because he was on TV.
Yeah, I actually don't remember seeing you on there.
That's even better.
This time,
Yeah, I was in the front row, so I was like,
nice.
And I know that the kid next to me started to get like his whole family was like texting saying, "Oh, you just saw him on TV. Is he next to the guy with his painted face?" I guess that would be me. So, either way, we won. That's not something else to say.
Yeah. I mean, you're right.
Yep.
No, you won the fourth quarter again, though. It's like, you won the fourth quarter again. That's what Dak is good for, winning the fourth quarter.
Again, I'm not going to argue that at all. I mean, yeah. It is what it is.
When the game is over, that's when Dak does his best work.
So this one here, Frankie, this one.
Yeah, that one.
This one was rough because it's literally what helped KC win the week before was a PI call. And then this one was actually more egregious than the one the Bengals did, and they don't call it. Because, I mean, at least with the Bengals, they were at least trying to play the ball, kind of, right? Like, he got there early, but he was playing through the guy. That's still a PI call all day. But this one, the guy never even turned to look for the ball. He had him wrapped, head buried into him, and then does this at the last second, and somehow that's not a flag. Well, and then they tried to do a makeup for it later, but there's no makeup when you're at the 50-yard line and you get an extra 10 yards versus first and goal from the 1.
The thing is too with that, yes, that obviously was pass interference, but who was it that made a case for it? I want to say it was either.
Here's my plane.
It was somebody on NFL Network that used to be a wide receiver that basically said the only reason why that was not called is because it was a 6'7" tight end. And a 6'7" tight end is typically more physical than a 6 foot 180-pound cornerback. So in a situation like that,
if you're coming back for the ball, that's a flag every time.
They basically said if Cousins throws that up like a foot higher, that's gonna be pass interference all day, every day. The fact that it pretty much hit the Kansas City defender in the back of the helmet is the only reason why they did not call that flag.
No, that is called 99% of the time, even exactly like that.
No, I agree, but that's the only case that they were making for it was the fact that it's a 6'7" guy. All you have to do is literally throw it like a foot higher, and it's going to be pass interference all day, every day.
That is a complete bullshit excuse.
But then you look at it. Even if
I hope they go undefeated and get their asses kicked in the Super Bowl.
But even if you look at it though, even if Atlanta gets a touchdown on that drive, do they win that game anyways? Because now you're giving Patrick Mahomes 4 minutes ish.
All right, I'm at the end.
All right. Take it easy,
I hope it's a cowboy pilot.
I mean, it does change the game in a way because you're down by 5, but if you score, you're either going to be up by 1 or you're going to be up by 3, depending on if you get the 2-point conversion or not. But you're still giving Mahomes almost 4 minutes to basically get into field goal range. Not even a touchdown.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I still take my chances with Mahomes getting 4 downs every single series as opposed to 3 downs. Because regardless what happens, Mahomes is going 4 downs every time out there because you have to. So it doesn't mean that that play ultimately won or lost the game. You have to look at the play calling on that final drive for Atlanta where it's 4th and inches. Why the hell are you running a stretch play when the best linebacker in the NFL is following Bijan Robinson and basically blew that play up?
No, I mean, they made a lot of bad plays, and who knows how it would have ended. But I can tell you that having 1st and goal from the 1.
Oh, no, it's different.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Generally puts 7 on the board.
The thing about the Chiefs is, really, this Chiefs team looks mortal to me versus the last 2 years, right? Because on all honesty, penalties saved them from the Bengals. Ja'Marr Chase.
Did you not see how they started the year last year?
Last year was
they were awful.
And I'm not saying that, but it just looks like the refs have really been helping KC, and also the defenses in terms of I'm using Ja'Marr Chase really has helped them because honestly, there's been so many instances that they, those teams could have beaten KC but didn't, and it was outlying circumstances, not the actual team itself that was winning that game. That was because I felt like they were getting a lot of help, and I don't know. I mean, it should be interesting, but I just felt like they were not as good.
I mean, this is Kansas City though, and you've seen this every single year. I hate saying this because every game matters in the NFL, obviously, but Kansas City really does not care until the end of November, early December, because for how bad their division has been the last 5 years, they pretty much know that if they play 80% up to their capabilities, they're going to be right around first place by the time the end of December or end of November rolls around. And then those final weeks of the season, they just flip the switch and be like, all right, it's playoff time. They did it last year. They were sitting at 6-4 or 6-5. And all of a sudden they finished the year 12-5 because they flipped the switch. Kansas City is one of those teams that even if they have their entire roster back, like right now, Travis Kelce doesn't look anywhere close to the Travis Kelce that we've seen in the last 8 years. Like him and Mahomes are really, I don't know if they're not on the same page or what's going on, but they don't even look like they're in sync right now. And this is something that who knows how long it's going to take to fix. But Kansas City is one of those teams where it sometimes takes them 7 or 8 weeks to get going for whatever reason, whether it's I always said it's because they're bored, because they've had so much success over the last decade that I think they just get bored during the regular season because they have such high expectations and they expect to be in the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl every year that the regular season is just a glorified super long preseason for them, that they kind of just go through the motions for half the season. And that's kind of what I'm seeing right now, where their defense is obviously playing as good as they can possibly play. But offensively, it's just like they know their defense is winning them games right now. So it just seems like they're going through the motions offensively right now just to kind of get, I don't know what they want to do, or just kind of get more of these new pieces incorporated back into the offense.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about the Chiefs that I do find where I thought was pretty good is even though Pacheco went down, still was putting up 4.2 yards a carry at 72. And so is Perrine. He got 6 carries and he was averaging 4.2. And then, so I felt like even though, Pacheco went down, and again, this is against an Atlanta team, but I felt like they, that run game was still good enough for those guys. And I felt like for them, that was a saving grace,
And then you have to remember Kareem Hunt is going to be back either next week or the week after.
Kareem Hunt's not necessarily a running back one. I think he's more of just a change of pace or
not in that offense. He'll be just like Pacheco. He's been in the system before. His first 5 years in the NFL, he was.
I don't think he's just an every down back. I think
he doesn't need to be. You can use him on first and second
if you're bringing him in, why would you disturb what you already got? You got 2 guys that have 4.2 apiece. And then you got Ward and other guys. I mean, do you really need Kareem Hunt? To be honest with you, is he really?
You do, because he's your pass catching. He's your pass catching back. Kareem Hunt is one of the best.
Perrine for that. Perrine can catch the ball out of the backfield. We know that.
But Perrine lacks the speed that Kareem Hunt has, and that's ultimately what they're trying to get.
Kareem's a little older in the tooth. I don't know. I don't think Kareem Hunt is a difference maker for me. I mean, it's good to have a man. What if you want the veteran experience?
But here's the thing though too that everyone was saying about. You don't think that Kareem Hunt's the difference maker? Nobody thought Juju Smith-Schuster. Nobody thought Juju.
What kind of alcohol's in there?
Whatever Sam's Club gives me.
What Jay just said about Kareem Hunt not being a difference maker. Nobody thought Smith-Schuster was going to be a difference maker, and who got the game-winning touchdown last night? Juju Smith-Schuster basically running.
Everybody can get a damn lucky ball. Shit.
But Juju Smith-Schuster.
Somebody can get a lucky ball.
But Juju Smith-Schuster was in that system before. He
left. I just feel like if Kareem Hunt was really this difference maker, number one, Cleveland wouldn't have let him go. B, number two, we'd have started on the damn practice squad. They'd have elevated his ass. I don't think he's that guy. I think he's good. I don't think he's a difference maker. I think you're looking for.
No, that's where you're wrong. Cleveland couldn't keep him. They had Chubb.
Yeah.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying I don't think I don't think that he was never the difference maker. You're not getting out there on waiver wire if you're a damn difference maker.
I mean, how many NFL players
have been on the contract here and you're trying to get a contract, right?
How many players have been on the waiver wire this year that just got released for either their contract was too much, their age was a certain point of age, or they just didn't have a spot to play? It doesn't mean you're not going to be a difference maker. When it comes to Kareem Hunt,
I think it does.
Really?
I just think it does. You don't see a lot of good quality running backs out there just hanging around and then being put on a damn practice squad.
Who did Minnesota get on waivers, basically? You mean to tell me that Aaron Jones has not been a difference maker in that Vikings?
I didn't say Aaron Jones wasn't a difference maker.
He's the same age as Kareem Hunt. He does the exact same thing that Kareem Hunt does.
I understand that, but he again, wasn't he? He actually just signed on because didn't he want more money, and I think that's why Minnesota brought him in. But he wasn't. He was not without a job, right? He went from one team directly into another team, from one starting spot to another starting spot. What the fuck is Kareem Hunt?
Kareem Hunt wanted more money.
Okay, and he wasn't worth it, so they didn't give it to him.
It's not that he wasn't worth it.
To make matters worse, they bring him in and throw him on a damn practice squad.
It's not that Kareem Hunt wasn't worth it. Cleveland didn't have enough money to give him. Kareem Hunt wanted $5.5 million. Cleveland only had $3 million in cap space. That's barely a veteran's minimum.
I understand the cap.
Kareem Hunt's better than a veteran's minimum. So Kareem Hunt hit the open market.
I just think it was kind of interesting that they put him on the practice squad and not right into the rotation.
He's not in football shape yet. He didn't even play in the preseason.
We're talking about freaking Kareem Hunt being a difference maker if he's not even in game shape.
He will be in 2 weeks.
What are you talking about?
He will be in 2 weeks.
Bullshit.
He'll probably be starting next week.
On that note, this show brought to you in part by True Fusion Gym. You can watch this nonsense all the time thanks to them. And you can use the QR code on the screen. Free 5-day pass at any of the 3 locations, Bellevue, Ballard, or University Village. You have Pilates, Bootcamp, Yoga, all the hot rooms. Find your edge at True Fusion Gym. And, of course, you can, bet right alongside us right here at Coast to Coast. Using the QR code on the screen, get 125% of your initial deposit and 10% of your bet guarantee up to, I think it's your first 3. So you can have some guarantees on your bet and, of course, get up to 125% of your first 3 deposits right here with the QR code on the screen. Now back to the nonsense that we've been listening to.
Hey, I think I'm gonna go get me some of that Pilates that True Fusion's offering, man. Because I think some of that Pilates would do wonders for my emotional regulation.
Well, I mean, it's not yoga, but
it's not. But I feel like there's going to be some Zen involved in there, right? Some relaxation involved.
No, Pilates is work.
Is it work? Oh,
yeah. No, Pilates
maybe it's yoga. Maybe it's hot yoga. They have hot yoga. True Fusion offer hot yoga.
They do. Oh. They have yoga and Pilates both in the hot rooms. And so if you're looking for Zen, yes, that is more of the yogi end of it. If you are looking for some work, that is Pilates. It's no joke. Like it does still help you with flexibility as far as that end, but it's a workout.
I just want to get in that good hot sweaty down.
Yeah, that's yoga. And they will kick you out of that class.
No, in all seriousness, though, I look at a lot of these different yoga style positions, and they just look incredibly difficult for an older person like myself with limited. Yeah, this is very difficult. The downward dog doesn't seem too hard, right? I mean, it seems like it's a simpler style of position,
that's one of your basic starting positions. So yes, that one is pretty easy. I think you'd be a master at child's pose. Like, I'm pretty sure you could knock that one out. You're just curled up in the ball crying.
Yeah. You know how we were talking about like how coaching makes a difference earlier?
Yeah.
You can clearly see that with Malik Willis.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
In his two starts in Green Bay. And if you're the Tennessee Titans, you have to be freaking kicking yourself in the face right now for letting him go and starting Will Levis.
Yeah, I'm sure the Titans are kicking themselves in the face on multiple fronts.
That is enjoyable. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, but I'm just saying.
I'll tell you who probably is kicking themselves for going to that team is Pollard. Now, he got the payday, no doubt about it. But I wonder if this is really the team that he wants to be on.
I mean, no, but at the same time, he doesn't have a healthy DeAndre Hopkins. So I mean, that's already hurting your pass.
DeAndre's old as dirt.
It's still Hopkins though.
It is. He's old. He's an old.
D-Hop also doesn't look like he's super invested.
No, he's not, because I don't think anybody in that organization wants Will Levis as the quarterback.
Yeah, of course,
certainly not the receivers, right? I mean, who else is out there? Calvin Ridley. I mean,
they have a guy who's been a starting quarterback in Tennessee the last 7 years, who's still available, who you can bring in for the cheap and would probably be better.
They are not going to go to get Tannehill.
I know they're not, but I'm just saying they never should have got rid of Tannehill in the first place. Yeah. They really shouldn't have. And if they were going to, they should have stuck with Malik Willis, because Malik Willis actually has a big arm. He actually can run have
football. Yeah.
And like Will Levis has a big arm. He just doesn't understand how the NFL works yet when it comes to making the correct reads, making the correct throws. Like Malik Willis at least can do that. And he has that element of throwing.
I mean, we didn't know about Malik until, we kind of knew some of it, but we didn't know 100% how well he was going to pan out until he went into Green Bay system. Same thing with Geno and Darnold and everybody else, right? I mean, who's to say that Will Levis can't be a better quarterback in just a different environment or a more developmental environment, right?
No. I'm sure he could.
He could, but this is the problem. This is the problem with a lot of NFL teams nowadays, is they either rush a quarterback to start too soon, Bryce Young case, and you could kind of make the case for Caleb Williams right now, because that Bears team looks completely lost on offense right now when everyone thought that offense was going to be much better.
Also,
the other thing that a lot of NFL teams do now is they give up too soon on a player.
Sure.
Malik Willis being an example. So many other players that were drafted in the first round where they didn't pan out. Like Jalen Reagor, I'm going to use Jalen Reagor as an example, even though it's a bad example because he really hasn't done shit to begin with. But when you drafted Jalen Reagor, he had a bad rookie season.
Sure.
But instead of trying to develop him more as a player, Philadelphia drafted Devontae Smith. Then they went and traded for A.J. Brown. Well, now you're pushing this guy that you took in the first round 2 years ago further and further and further down the depth chart. There's a reason why he's not developing is because you literally just took all the targets away from him by getting.
But that's another thing, though. How many teams? And I'm gonna use the Bears as an example. You could use Tennessee as an example. There's other teams out there, Carolina as an example. How many teams out there just don't have a good development staff, right? You can go out there and get all the damn receivers and high quality, this, that, and the other. But if you don't have the ability to develop these guys, then what are you really doing? And I think that's something that gets doesn't get talked about enough, is the fact that some of these teams' lack of development is just as much a hindrance as having bad coaching.
No, that's 100% the thing, and
that's the problem with being a high draft pick. Is you're going to a bad team, generally has some questionable coaching, possibly has bad ownership, right? It's hard to develop in those scenarios. So, I mean,
but take on the other flip of that. Take the Houston Texans, right? This is a team that was bad up until the point they got CJ Stroud. Now, CJ was a great talent. Don't get me wrong; he's already a good talent. But they also had a very good developmental system down there in Houston that is doing good with those quarterbacks. And I think that's one example of a bad team that drafts well and has a good developmental style.
So there's a distinct caveat to them specifically, is they were setting themselves up for that draft. So they were doing smart things the year before when they were terrible,
for sure.
Right? Yeah. Like they were making moves to make that next year possible. So absolutely. I mean, you could see what they were doing in a losing effort the year before they went and got Stroud and added different elements. Like you looked at that and you're just like, okay, like these guys are making moves that this offseason they're going to make some strides. Now, we didn't think they were going to be quite as good as they were. Right. But we thought it was going to be a noticeable step forward. And then they still set themselves up even beyond that, where you knew this last offseason they were going to have some good picks because of the way that they made, trades during the year and, the prior offseason. Yeah. They were going to have two really good drafts in a row. Like you could see it coming before they even happened. And so
because they got Anderson and they got him, CJ in the same draft. So they definitely, got some good
back-to-back picks. Like it was amazing. Yeah, so, but they did really smart things to build the two draft classes the year before any of it happened.
And so I think they also were very fortunate enough that they have good, in my opinion. Now, you look at their ownership, they definitely hired the right people, right? I mean, you look at Bobby Slowick on that offensive coordinator spot. You look at bringing DeMeco Ryans, which everybody loves to play for, and he commands a certain level from those guys. Tomlin is the kind of guy like a DeMeco where he commands a lot out of his players, and they like to play for him. And I just think Houston really made some good. After the whole Deshaun Watson thing, they really turned that ship around and really put that team in a great direction. I think if I'm a Chicago fan, I'm like, hey, let's start looking at this Texas team and what can we do like they did. For example, maybe it's time to let go of Eberflus.
Well,
here's time to put somebody in the offensive line for crying out loud.
That right there is what they need to do because Justin Fields is a prime example of what he's doing. Because everyone said in Chicago, and this is coming directly from Matt Eberflus last year. Matt Eberflus came right out numerous times last year and said, Justin Fields is a very difficult player to coach because he doesn't want to listen. If you listen to what Mike Tomlin and what Arthur Smith have been saying of Justin Fields, they said he is the easiest quarterback they have ever coached. He's willing to put the work in to get better. I'm sorry, but I'm trusting what's coming out of Pittsburgh's camp more than I'm trusting what's coming out of Pittsburgh.
I agree. I mean, because what's the one constant, right? The constant's the player, right? The differential variables are the teams. And so it tells you right there, everything you just said is absolutely correct.
I think it's more so that Justin
Fields. But if I'm the Bears, look, they had a lottery treasure trove of picks, but yet none of it did they really truly put into that offensive line. And you see it every week to week. Yep. It doesn't matter if you go and get a Caleb Williams or a Justin Fields or whoever. If your offensive line is garbage and your coach is garbage, your team's going to be garbage no matter who you bring in.
I think it's more so that Justin Fields was probably trying to tell Eberflus what he knew would work, and Eberflus didn't want to listen.
Well, I mean, Eberflus should have been fired with the rest of the regime anyway. But before we get out of here, since we're short on time, I do want to hit on Scott's question here. Now, I didn't realize that Tua traveled with the team.
Yeah.
the thing that's interesting about that is that lets you know that IR was specifically for him to be able to make a decision on what it is he wants to do moving forward. Because
Absolutely.
if he was still in concussion protocol, he would not have been able to get on an airplane. So that lets you know that this IR is more about him making life decisions than it is about actual after effects from.
There's more to it than that. There's more to it than that also.
No, I'm sure there is.
It's also because the NFL actually is getting involved.
No, I mean, they have to look at what it is they have to do from here.
The NFL is going to be talking to his doctor, whether it's this week or next week.
Yeah. And
he might be the first player that is required to wear a Guardian cap. And if he doesn't wear a Guardian cap, they will not let him play.
No. You knew for a fact that if he comes back, it's a Guardian cap no matter what.
Oh, for sure.
You knew for a fact that was going to be dictated to him.
For sure.
Now, but that being said, if he was still suffering from any after effects, he wouldn't have been able to get on an airplane. That's exactly. Standard.
Well, let me ask you this. One last thing I got to ask you. It's about Tua, Bo, is in stat guy. The fact that he is traveling with the team, he's not on the IR. Obviously, he can run on a plane, like you said, Bo. Do you think he makes it back before the end of the season, or is Tua not going to come back this season and he comes back?
Well, yeah. So the IR is a minimum of 4 weeks. Right. And so if he's able to get on an airplane after the first week, he's capable of playing. So he's going to be out the 4 weeks. That allows all sides to decide what it is they want to do, from the team side, from Tua's side, from the NFL side. Right. Like they get to figure out exactly how it is they want to handle this moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I would bet that right at the end of this IR period, right, which is 3 weeks out now,
yep.
I would bet at the end of that he's probably back on the field with the Guardian cap, unless they found something that requires him to not be in.
I think how you're saying it, it's true. Like if he comes back, it'll be with the Guardian cap.
Sure.
The only way I see him coming back at any point this year is if Miami's still in it. Because if Miami plays the way they've played this week for the next 3 weeks and falls to 1-5, 1-6.
Oh, well, yeah, maybe not then.
What point do you have to bring? That's what I'm saying. Like
right, at that point, I'm letting him rest.
Only a 4-week IR stint.
Yeah,
it's only a 4 week. Yeah, if it's only a 4 week IR stint, so he's going to be out 3 more games minimum, anyways.
Yes.
If Miami goes 0-3 in the next 3 games to fall to 1-5, do you even bother to bring Tua back at that point? Because what incentive does it have if you bring him back and all of a sudden 3 weeks later he gets hurt again? Well, now your season's shot anyways when it was probably shot 3 weeks ago sitting at 1-5.
That's almost a replica of the 2022 season. If they're not careful, it could be a replica.
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, we'll have to explore this a little bit more tomorrow because I'm curious if they were to just full on tank the season and go after a guy like Ewers.
Right.
No, I don't think they're tanking because Tyler Huntley has proven that he can win games. If they were tanking, I would say they would have been sticking with Skylar Thompson the rest of the way. The fact that they brought in Tyler Huntley leads me to believe he's competitive enough.
So they want to win, but I don't know if they'd be sad if they don't.
Yeah, exactly. They're not going to tank, I don't think, but Tyler Huntley's a guy that they're like, oh, well, we'll just start him the rest of the year too, and you can sit.
Exactly.
Well, they're definitely going to need to start Tyler Huntley next week if they want a shot at salvaging the season.
Well, they're definitely not starting Tim Boyle, and I don't know that Skylar Thompson will be back anyway. That being said, if you are watching here on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. Helps us bring our content to you. That subscribe button is way more important than you would think. If you're watching on Roku, stay tuned for the next hour. Other than that, we will see you all tomorrow as we, dive a little bit deeper into what happens with Miami. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your day, guys.